Hey, and welcome. I'm Dave, and you are listening to Life Is Peachy, a nostalgia-fueled podcast that allows me to sit here and waffle on about the bands and the albums that became the soundtrack to my life. Growing up in the 90s, the early 2000s, and while we're at it, sharing a few memories from Her Name Is Murder Productions. Episode 17 with Nonpoint frontman Elias Soriano looked back over the band's creative and business fight or flight inside the industry, along with the 20th anniversary of their more radio-friendly inclined major label sophomore development. 2002 was definitely an interesting time. The nu metal bubble was essentially close to its full and at that point in time, final expansion, and already bands were evolving towards the next point of progression and survival.
I chose my path, you chose the way of the hero. And they found you amusing for a while.
And if we backtrack only a few years earlier, the sound, the culture was firmly established and thriving, even if within a conglomerate melting pot, without rules and boundaries. It was birthed as a result of many genres and sounds coming together and creating something new. The right place, the right time, and an audience hungry for voice, identity, and somewhere to fit in and call home. For me, in general, the 90s creative bubble was so eclectic. I grew up loving what was played to me within the four walls of my family home, thank you to my parents, and my other parents, the radio Top 40. Coming into the mid-90s, I was a huge fan of Max Martin Pop. If the name sounds familiar, that's because he is the Swedish producer responsible for a stack of 90s pop bangers, from the likes of Ace of Base through to the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, just to name a few.
I'm dreaming away, wishing that heroes they truly exist. I cry watching the days. Can't you see I'm a fool in so many ways? Just to lose all my senses. That is just so typically me, baby.
And, well, what can I say? I love my heavy music, but at the end of the day, a good song is a good song.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Running parallel to this was the Australian alternative music scene, which in layman's terms, and once again, in personal opinion, well, it was just something else and completely on another level. And I've made my attempt to gloss over some of this in episode 12 with Luke McDonald of Sunk Lodo.
You are now listening to an excerpt from episode 12 of the Life Is Peachy Podcast.
Because we also liked a lot of Australian music. We would rehearse or jamming, we would rehearse and jam Friends with Rom songs, Green Spoon songs. We loved everything, man.
Dude, 90s alternative music in Australia during that period of time was at such a unique, creative apex.
Oh, it was popping. Regurgitator, Silverchair, whatever, anything.
Loading Aussie
Oh man,
Mix CD.
okay, I need to do a quick Aussie jukebox. Here we go. You can of course track that down within the lit back catalogue, hopefully nestled in amongst an episode bag of goodies, special guests, and album celebrations. And if you are a fan of Sunk Lodo,
But wait! There's more!
beyond episode 12 of the podcast, be sure to head over to my second podcast offering, the Life Is Peachy Mixtape Sessions, for an in-depth interview with both Luke and vocalist Jason of Sunk Lodo, talking past, present, and of course, reunion. Links are all in the description of this episode, so yeah, if that sounds like something you might be interested in, be sure to check that out.
Get on with the ceremony.
Yeah, the 90s. Right. So what I found so interesting during this place and time was the artist's ability to essentially run as a mainstream band, but actually sound and carry themselves as anything but that. Regurgitator, Silverchair, the Mavises, Powderfinger, the Super Jesus, Jebediah, Spider Bait, Grinspoon, Tism, Killing Heidi, The Living End, Frenzal Romp. The list, it goes on.
It's time for the 90s jukebox. Fuck yeah. You are welcome.
I'm on the drug to kill River Phoenix.
And then there were those really unique pop artists, Savage Garden's self-titled debut, festering their single Break Me, Shake Me. Yeah, to me, that's heavy.
But you hurt me in a way that I'm not breaking me, shaking me, hate me, take me on. When the madness stops, you'll be alone. Breaking me, shaking me, hating me, taking me, making me, making me, breaking me, shaking me, hating me, taking me, break me.
There is a stack of really unique alternative Australian pop. Natalie Imbruglia, Big Mistake.
Close your eyes, think of all the bubbles of the love we made. And you're down on your knees, it's too late.
90s Kylie Minogue with Confide in Me.
But in the name of understanding now, a problem should be shared. Come
In Excess, The Gift. Now, I'm using pop in a vast sense, but hopefully you get the idea. Australia had some good stuff. I love a great pop song, and I love my heavy music, so combine those two and I am on board. Pop music in Australia always had an edge to it, and throughout the 90s, I would consider a lot of it extremely alternative music. And I still scratch my head wondering how it was possible for these bands, these albums, to not only chart, but sell. Regurgitator's Unit winning Australian Album of the Year at the ARIAs in 1998 is definitely an instant reference that comes to mind.
That's right!
I was there loving stuff like this, all the while blasting my heavy music. To me, a lot of the above fell under that beautiful heavy music umbrella.
Thank you, Mr. DJ.
Don't you know, baby?
The boys from Melbourne, including Dan Hall, who didn't want to tour this time, had a lucky break with their first single, Get Set. They were in a recording studio in the US, were overheard by people from MTV, who were so impressed they wanted the song for the film Election.
If elected, I will immediately dismantle the student government so that none of us will ever have to sit through one of these stupid assemblies again.
From the ashes of cover bands and busking, Taxiride formed in 1997, and it was their first EP which did the rounds in Melbourne via the help of their taxi driving friend, testing the goods out on various passengers. This debut EP was successful in landing a contract with major label Warner Music in Australia, while a friend of the group passed their work onto a Sire Records executive in the US, who signed them despite being unknown.
Okay, well, we'll take these home, run through them with a fine-tooth comb, cross the T's and dot the lowercase j's.
By 1998, Taxiride relocated to Ocean Way Recording Studios in LA to work with producer Jack Joseph Puig on Imaginate, a highly successful debut which would spawn the massive single Get Set. In as the official theme song to the Reese Witherspoon black comedy Election, Get Set would go on to win the 1999 ARIA Award for Breakthrough Artist Single and was nominated for Best Pop Release, Breakthrough Artist Album, and Highest Selling Album the following year. Taxiride wrote the majority of the album in the studio, and the final product generally used songs that band members had worked on individually. To promote the album, they toured Australia, America, Japan, and Europe, with the album selling well in all areas. The second single, Everywhere You Go, would hit the top 20, go gold, and in the end, Imaginate was a #1 ARIA charting double platinum debut.
Wow.
Not too shabby for a band that seemingly came out of nowhere and existing thus far for only a couple of years.
Never gets you too far. Never gets you too far. Never gets you too far. And if you climb aboard, there is nothing to it. If you concentrate, we will see you through it. Don't forget, at the end of the ride, you'll be hypnotized by the sound it's too
found so interesting about Taxiride was how this album and introduction essentially presented the group almost as a boy band that played their own instruments. So they ticked a few boxes, reminiscent of my love for 90s Max Martin pop mixed with that Australian alternative twang. Similar to the question presented to Non-Point frontman Elias Soriano in episode 17, what were fans and critics to expect with the band's highly anticipated Sophomore? Today is a special one. Not only is episode 18 celebrating 20 years of Garage Mahal, but it's looking back on a band with certain songs in their back catalogue that really trigger that immense Australian nostalgia kickback. I'm really excited to welcome Jason Singh to the Life Is Peachy podcast. Thank you, Jason, so much for your time and energy and jumping into the Lip Taxi.
No problem. I've been following you for a while, so I'm glad we could make it happen.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Thank you. And yeah, well, obviously I've been following you for a while too, but hopefully you're up for a trip down memory lane, checking in, of course, at Garage Mahal.
For sure. Absolutely.
Following the sudden explosion of Imaginate, in a way, it really felt like this band Taxiride, armed with this song Get Set, kind of came out of nowhere. And I imagine it wasn't too long before the sophomore demands started creeping in to capitalize on this exciting momentum. And so from here, it would be the Taxiride lineup of Tim Watson, Tim Wilde, and yourself, who would commence the writing sessions for what was to become 2002's Garage Mahal. I've read that much of Garage Mahal was written on the road while touring, following the success of Imaginate and cementing a certain Taxiride sound and expectation with your debut. What factors led to the evolution of the band's overall sound and the creation of your sophomore album?
Well, I'd say that sonically we evolved just on the road, because our first album, Imaginate, it wasn't really road tested, if you know what I mean. We made it in a studio, we wrote it at home, and then we put it out and it went crazy, and then we had to sort of go out on the road. And as we were on the road, we were developing into a live band. That was obviously the inspiration behind a lot of the songs for the second record. They had to feel good because we had to play them every night of the week.
I woke up on the dark side of the room, the light side of the
after the release of Imaginate, Taxiride were largely associated with that term. Yeah, you could say making pop music. What were your thoughts on this at the time? Did that create any label, fan, media expectations? And put any pressure on writing music for Garage Mahal?
Good question. I think that we as a band were rebelling against the pop thing, but when you look back at it 20 years later, I mean, we were a pop band. It just wasn't considered very cool at the time to be successful, which is crazy. We would rebel against it, and that's why there was a lot of heavy songs on our second and third record, because it was more rock-based and more band-based. And that was just the road that we were on.
Your music has been described as intriguing and memorable, but also too corporate.
Too corporate. It's kind of cool that we have critics, still to us, So
we're still getting over that sort of fact that people are actually taking an interest in what we're doing. That's flattering enough.
At the time, we probably didn't like the fact that people thought we were so polished that we'd come out of America, and we spent the first 6 months touring Australia telling people that we're actually an Australian band. So.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I have to admit, when Get Set was all over the radio, I had no idea you guys were Australian, simply for the reason you just mentioned. As an Australian, you generally know what's going on, and you know of the Australian bands.
Yeah, I guess at the time when you're just hit your 20s, you want to lead the way, you want to be cool, you want all those things, but maybe we rebelled a little bit, and looking back, maybe we shouldn't have, I don't know.
So would you say this mentality also played out over your image and personality as an artist? Once again, in comparison to that pop, almost boy band aesthetic seen during the Imaginate cycle of the band, to the more bohemian rock vibe presented on Garage Mahal?
Yeah, I guess so. That's when we were sort of taking control about our image and things like that. And, in the first album, we just sort of trusted the people around us and our record label to figure out what we were, because we weren't even really certain. We knew we were good. We wrote pop songs and stuff like that, but when you got more than one singer, I guess, in the band, it was a bit confusing for a record label to go, okay, this is how we promote this, you know what I mean? So in hindsight, we probably did a whole bunch of things that weren't really for us.
You are about to hear Everywhere You Go, the second single from Imaginate, featuring session drums from John Freeze.
I could be a lover like that. Just give me all the things that you want now. Tell me the best thing I can do. Say you got a lot of good reasons. I know I told a lot of good lies now.
That's the journey we were on. That's the evolution of the band. You can't change it, so you just got to look at it and go, maybe that's exactly what it was.
Where you go, I will come to you, but I won't bring you down. Oh, tears you cry, miles go by, I'll be reaching out to hold you. There is nothing else that I won't do for you. Everywhere you go, I will come to you, but I won't bring you down.
And when they get down to the business end of the day, you're watching people who know what they're doing. They write their own music, all play instruments, all sing.
Coming into the writing of Garage Mahal, was there any sense of chasing artistic validation coming out of that pop band association with Imaginate?
It was an interesting time. Looking back now, I'm probably embarrassed about some of the things I said and did in those times because I was young and dumb, I guess.
You're a real Blue Flame special, aren't you, son? Young, dumb, and full of cum.
We all were, so we just thought we knew everything. We went out on a limb sonically at the time just because that's what we liked. And then when it crossed over to the masses, I guess people might have taken us a bit more seriously, so possibly yes.
It kind of feels like we're out kind of representing our country like an athlete or something like that, you know. We feel like we're out there representing Australian music and doing our best to do so.
Thank you very much. We've been Taxiride. We'll see you next time.
Entering the studio to record the Sophomore, what did you want to say with this album, and where did you want to be as an artist in 2002?
In 2002, I guess we were just trying to hang on to this accelerated ride that we were on. So we were still trying to, identify. And it's not often that four people like us would make a band together because we're very, 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 very different people from each other. Probably the reason why we sounded so magical, but also why we can't really work together. We didn't really set out to do anything, I guess. When we did set out, we were actually on a flight on 9/11 to America to record the album with a completely different producer in a completely different studio. We would have ended up with a completely different album as well. What are the chances that we were mid-air on one of the craziest days in my entire life, and then all hell broke loose and we ended up having to change everything that we were planning for months. But the world had changed, so we had to sort of change with it. Came home, then our studio time fell out. The producer couldn't work it out with our schedules, and we ended up going with Fred Maher, who was also on our list of producers, but it wasn't the first option that we had. And in the end, he did a fabulous job and really invented a sound for us through that record.
And so when you just said you would have come out with a different album, what is it that you actually meant by that? Like, did you scrap what was originally intended when you returned to Australia, and did you guys write new songs, more songs, changing the direction of the music even?
I don't think we wrote any extra songs for the album. I'd say it'd be more a sonic thing, or just if you turn left instead of right, you're going to end up with a different thing. We'd written everything already up to there, and when Creeping Up Slowly was written, that was kind of like, okay, we're ready to go with the whole album.
So once losing that studio time and the original producer, how did the band come to eventually work with Fred Maher, and what did he bring to the recording experience?
It was an interesting thing because he came from a drummer's background too, so the grooves and drums and bass were all really big on Garage Mahal. He was the drummer in Scrutiny Politti, he produced Lou Reed and some, huge acts. He was young, he was our age. Actually, maybe he was a bit older, but not much older compared to Jack, who we'd worked for with Imaginate. Yeah, he, had ideas about getting DJ Swamp to come in and scratch on Creeping Up Slowly, which ended up being like a massive hook. Yeah, he was really good to work with. I'd love to work with him again. I lost contact with him, so if you're listening out there, Fred, hit me up.
Let's start the music.
Okay, so I have a little story here I'd love to share with you, and I'm pretty sure my friend won't mind, but earlier this year I was back in Australia, finally seeing my friends and family after over 2 years, and I can't tell you what an amazing 2.5 month whirlwind it was. back in my homeland, in the suburb I grew up, and spending quality time with my oldest and closest friends.
Stick around.
And on my last weekend, I had a few of those mates over for a barbecue before I was to get back on a plane and head back over to the Netherlands. And one of my mates, well, I'm at the stage where most of them are married, have families, kids, you know, the works. Life is busy and the stamina isn't what it used to be. And this particular friend, one of my best friends, was ready to call it a night before I was selfishly ready to let that happen. He was done and ready for that sweet, sweet bed.
Doc, I'll get all the sleep I need when I'm dead. Thanks for the dance.
We went to film school together back in the day, and we have had this really fun history with having some drinks and going down that YouTube music video rabbit hole, and Taxiride often pop up at some stage.
Caught my first tube this morning, sir.
And so, in my attempt to brainchild a way for him to continue hanging out and just hang in there, last a little longer, I'm not kidding. I went into the lounge room and put on Creeping Up Slowly. This quite literally kept him in the game and going for hours more.
Before you knew it, it was Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Where did that one creep up from?
That's awesome. The song still sounds great today. I can't believe it's 20 years old. I just can't believe that. Time is just flying. I still feel like the exact same person in a lot of ways, just a bit more grown up mentally, and I sort of know what I want nowadays compared to back then. But yeah, I'm glad you love it.
It's really hard to believe it's 20 years. A lot of music can just take you back there. Time is a funny thing like that, I guess.
I know, right? Sure is.
So I've gone on about my connection with Creeping Up Slowly, but yeah, it's not my song. So Jason, what memories do you have of your highest charting single?
I remember that writing session for that pretty vividly, actually, and I can't remember a lot of things from back then, but myself and Tim Wilde went on a writing trip paid for by our publisher at the time so we can write the second album. We went over to the UK, we worked with Graham Goulburn from 10cc, and then we went around to New York and worked with some unreal songwriters. And while we were in New York, we caught the train to Boston, and we wrote Creeping Up Slowly with two guys out of Boston. They had a drum loop, and me and Tim were like, oh God, here we go. But, you know, the song doesn't end up where it is without that start. So we worked together on the song, and it was very different, actually. One day, if I've ever got the nerve, I'll post what the demo sounded like. You know, it's a different chord structure. It was just based around a C chord and too much. But that night, as we left the studio, I mean, we knew we had something really good. it really happened in 5 minutes, that song. As soon as Tim played the chords and I sang what I was hearing, then that was it. The song was done. And the rest sort of just made up as we went along. But when we left that writing experience, we caught the train back to New York, and we got off at Madison Square Garden, and a Matchbox 20 concert had just got out. And there was a huge blizzard on, frighteningly cold. So much so that we just come out of the train station, we couldn't get a cab, and we ended up just running in 2 different directions to try and get back to our hotel and not literally freeze to death. So that's one of the reasons why I'll never forget that riding session. And on that run home, I saw a homeless man on a bench just freezing, and I couldn't stop and help because I was also freezing. And that vision of that man on the seat actually inspired another song for our next record called Tripper Red, which was about that guy sort of waiting for his death on that park bench. It was absolute madness. Yeah, it's funny the things that you remember. You don't remember all the joyous stuff sometimes. You just have these little memories that remind you of that day, I guess.
I wish the rain was out just once.
Can't rain all the time.
Watching the world go by.
Action. So if we can go over some more creeping up slowly, what about the music video? Because I really enjoy rewatching this. It just looks like a lot of fun and somewhat encapsulates a particular part of that early 2000s vibe so nicely.
Yeah, I remember that video too. It was a great day. We hired this like mansion out in Sydney and put a call out to some fans and stuff that wanted to come down. And it's funny, like some of those young people in that video, obviously almost my age now, and it's a great memento for them and for me. I was rocking the long hair in that day, so
yeah.
It was good. We just had a bit of a party. We put the song on a few dozen times and everyone jumped around, and it was a massive, huge success.
Yeah, actually, concepts like this do trip me out. Realizing that with the extras in a music video or people in crowds at concerts from 20 years ago, it's kind of like, hold on, I was around that age then too, and now it's 2022.
Wow. They might be showing their kids the video.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. There's mum and there's dad there. Yeah, I mean, they were just school kids back then, like we all were once, I guess.
Well, I mean, that can be one of the crazy things about a fan connection. And if we're specifically talking about this song, this album, you know, that's something I and the fans have really enjoyed for 20 years and we've had in our lives for 20 years. Creating memories and moments around this music, that's
Thank you very much.
Big chunk of someone's life. Just right there to have a connection with something.
Well, thank you for that. And I've said this lots and lots of times. For me, music is a time machine. When you listen to Creeping Up Slowly, you go back to, you know, being a late teenager at school or whatever it may be. That's the same reason why I made Wild.The, the album, and then the show Heaven's Greatest Hits. It's about your whole life is time-stamped with music, from being a little kid to, you know, what you're listening to now and everything in between.
Yeah.
Music is the best Dewey system in my brain.
Dude, you are speaking my language.
What? We just become best friends? Yep.
You gotta give it all up to show
it helps me organise where I am.
Yes.
Some of those big impactful moments. First time you heard Smells Like Teen Spirit, I know exactly where I was. First time I heard I Want You by Savage Garden, I know exactly where I was. But yeah, for me, it's like a therapeutic thing to make this show happen because I get to play all the songs that I've loved in one go. The set list is unbelievable, bro. If you could, be in a band and play just the most amazing music in your whole life, what a killer set list, When great songs come along and change your life, you go, click, there's a moment, stamp it, file it, it's in there. And when you hear the song in the future, that file gets loaded and those feelings get loaded, you know what I mean?
I imagine most people have a nostalgic connection to a wide range of music from their birth country, particularly from that point in time of youth we're referencing, and of course, growing up into our early 20s. I feel very spoiled with this unique collection of Australian music that was on offering during that point in time. First discovering music, and discovering it on my own terms, I found a lot of the music to be quite daring, dangerous, without genre boundary.
Yep.
This was exhilarating and highly contagious, as most of these songs were also laced with amazing songwriting. And I actually believe it was a lot of this music that acted as my personal gateway drug into the world of heavy music.
Flowers for the trees. There's a hold-on conversation.
This exploration into the mid-90s paved the way to falling hard and fast for heavy music by the end of the decade. And by 2002, I was obviously really into my heavy music and a lot of different styles within that.
So tired of making excuses. Gotta stop sitting on fences. 'Cause every night and every day.
Bands like The Butterfly Effect and getting my head wrapped around the use of more melodic vocals within this music. And so that actually leads me to a particular song I'm really excited to talk about. Forest for the Trees.
Forest for the trees.
Because there's moments really reminiscent of bands from that ilk. It has that pop chorus hook, but in essence, this is a heavy song. Can we talk about Forest for the Trees?
I always thought it was a pretty powerful song, and I started writing that song in a McDonald's drive-thru actually. My sister was going out with this guy at the time. He was obviously trouble, but she just couldn't be told. And we're very, very, very close. Yeah, I had to sort of watch her just make all the mistakes, even though I was trying to tell her that she was making mistakes at the time. That's where all the lyrics came from. It hurts you now to listen, you say you're on a mission, all those kind of things. That's just me talking to my sisters. When I write songs, they're usually about my family and people around me, not so much about me. I try and just draw on people's sort of feelings and takes on things. Yeah, that's where the start of that song came from.
Did you get to play that one live?
Oh yeah, we played that a lot. I mean...
Nice, yeah, that would have gone off.
Yeah, it did. It was a couple of our heavier numbers. And then I think the band got even heavier on the next record. We went down some other crazy path. When we were fully left to our own devices, that's what we ended up with. But Forest for the Trees is It's tough and heavy without being too hard.
Too aggressive, yeah.
Yeah, it's still heavy, but it's not aggressive.
You just mentioned then going even heavier once being left to your own devices. After the release and while touring of Garage Mahal, what actually led to Taxiride becoming independent?
I really don't know.
Sweeping under the rug. Hurt the ones that you love. I can't remember when or where. Sit alone with the one.
One of the main reasons was we had such a huge debt at the label that we could probably never pay it off with another album, and we had that hanging over our heads while we're trying to write the album. I guess we spent more money than we made at that time. I mean, in hindsight, again, I probably would have just stuck with the label for as long as I could, but, you know, it was a time of independent bands, so we thought we'd jump on that too.
Elias from Nonpoint, well, he went really deep into his history and experiences with various labels and eventually gaining independence. There's just so much to it.
Yep.
It was, for me at least, really fascinating to get a crash course based on his experiences with all of that. Yeah, over the years, there's been so many stories with regards to major label stigmas, horror stories with bands in debt or albums being shelved, whatever it may be.
You are now listening to an excerpt from episode 17 of the Life Is Peachy podcast.
People don't realize what happened and why. It's like, damn, Nonpoint's on another label? Not our fault. And they wanted us and spent good money. So it was a positive thing that was looked at negatively because of perception, because people aren't just looking at the art and getting their head out of the business and out of what maybe other people are pointing out. But in the story of our band and our brand, I am seeing more success now than I saw on my biggest record because I'm independent now.
Was there ever a juggling act for you as an artist? Walking a tightrope between label demands, options, and expectations, all while trying to listen to and stay true to who you are and who you wanted to be?
I think possibly with how many creatives there were in the one band, that would be hard. But if it was just me and I'm dealing with someone, I can figure that out. You know, I can figure that balance. But when you're balancing left and right with one person and front and back with another person and up and down with another person, you're sort of all over the place. We had a lot of things from the past hanging over our head and we just didn't want that. So we said we're happy to just go out and do it ourselves and not be told what to do and just go do it. And we did.
You can do anything. You can go anywhere. Money? Power is an illusion. It's up here. You can be here.
Sounds pretty gratifying.
Yeah, it was. And in about 3 years, we can do the 20-year anniversary of that album.
Yeah, nice. Going into that transition towards independence, what were you seeing in your rearview mirror coming out of that whole Garage Mahal touring cycle?
That tour was next level. We did Wembley, but we also did the Berlin Olympic Stadium, the Munich Olympic Stadium, Stadium de France in France, and just so many huge 100,000 seater, 120,000 seater stadiums, like full of people. So that was a huge experience. You know, we travelled around in a tour bus and I wrote some songs on the tour bus. I wrote Saffron on that tour bus, on that tour, because that was prior to Garage Mahal coming out.
Right.
If you don't hit the brakes, then you'll be history. Ex-friend, hard habits, now he's f***ing your lady. I know that it is crazy, but it keeps going on and on and on. Everything you know is come undone. A saffron lane.
Touring Japan was a great experience. I love Japan. Traveling around on bullet trains and playing to some amazing crowds and audiences in venues. It was a great whirlwind experience. Sometimes I think never happened because it's too good to be true.
Just constantly.
Sometimes I'm like, God, it feels like yesterday, and then I could doubt myself and go, did that actually happen?
Yeah.
And then luckily I've got a bunch of photos and stuff to prove it, so I can go, yes. I feel like Guy Pearce in that Momentum movie.
Look, memory can change the shape of a room, it can change the color of a car, and memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation, they're not a record. And they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
Document everything, otherwise I forget.
Well, sometimes life can feel like a dream.
All the time it feels like a dream, but I'm a dreamer. I live in a dream state. I live in a dream land. So I'm just going to continue to dream big and see what happens.
Well, okay, speaking of dreaming big, Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, talk me through that, because I recently saw a video uploaded on YouTube and it was featured on an Australian social news TV program, A Current Affair, documenting that moment.
Taxiride have been on a 2-month tour of Europe as the supporting act for the grandmother of rock, Tina Turner. We caught up with them as they prepared to play in front of 74,000 people at London's Wembley Stadium.
I'll link it in the description, and it will also feature in the Taxiride playlist over at the Life Is Peachy YouTube page. But yeah, Wembley.
At the time, it felt like that was about as high up the mountain with the victory and the torch and standing at the top of the mountain with a cape on.
This looks like a job for Superman.
That's about as close to the sun as you can get without getting too burnt.
Today is the pinnacle of the tour for the band, performing at Wembley Stadium before a capacity crowd of 74,000 people.
Are you okay?
I'm good.
I'm nervous for you.
Are you?
Yeah.
Really good learning experience, because for me personally, like, I got to see just how big an artist can be in Tina Turner. It was like massive. I'd met a lot of people in my time, but she was like next level success, you know what I mean? We're backstage with Tina Turner and Lionel Richie and John Fogerty from Creedence, and I'm just like, what is happening? I posted that Current Affair video that you watched, and I think we were pretty calm. We just went about our business and did a show, and we won over some fans and flew the Australian flag high and proud, and it's another great memory in my memory bank.
Are you having fun?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've had really crap jobs too, you know, so...
Like what?
Oh, like everything from, video store clerks to cooks to...
Kitchen hands, bank tellers.
Car spray painters, a butcher.
Yeah.
We had something burning inside us as, as kids and teenagers, and wanted to just give life a go, this way.
Crystal trends, they float on by. Turn it over and start again. Maybe we can lose our minds. Scarred with the sign that I cannot remember. Happiness
Looking back with that 20 years of retrospect, what does Garage Mahal mean to you now, and where does it sit for you within your personal and creative legacy as an artist?
Garage Mahal's my album, which I'm really happy about. I named my studio Garage Mahal. The album was titled Garage Mahal. I was living in my mum's garage and I dressed it up. It looked like the Taj Mahal in there, you know what I mean? There's all these drapes and Indian stuff around, and we used to call it Garage Mahal. I wrote a lot of the songs in there and stuff, so I've got a huge affiliation. When I met the guys in Taxiride, they'd already started working on Imaginate, but Garage Mahal was when I went, this is my thing. I still think it sounds great to this day, so I'm very, very, very proud of it.
Okay, so Imaginate definitely has some great, iconic songs on it, but for me, as a whole cohesive release, I mean, it's got to be Garage Mahal for sure.
That's my boy right there. Well, me too, you know, like I listen every now and then, you know, a song will come up on Spotify or whatever, and it gets there quite a bit, sometimes here everywhere you go. And there are some beautiful songs on that album. But yeah, just as an artist, being an artist and coming of age as an artist, for me, that happened in Garage Mahal.
Don't be afraid to be feeling so bad, you see. It won't be long till you get back home. Dream what you wanna be, feel it so easily. Don't be afraid to fly, just let go. With the sunlight in your eyes, with the sunlight in your
Jason, man, I've loved this, and I would really like to thank you for your time and your energy and celebrating 20 years of Garage Mahal.
No problem, mate.
Thank you for writing a bunch of classics that have played a big part in my life's soundtrack and for keeping my mate up past his bedtime.
Yeah, awesome, mate.
Happy birthday, Garage Mahal.
Thank you so much for having me too, and also your love and respect for that album. Thank you so much, and anyone that likes it enjoys this episode of your podcast, bro.
I love this job.
And there you have it, Lips, episode 18, and my chat with Jason Singh of Australia's Taxiride, and my homage to some of that amazing 90s, early 2000s Aussie alternative music. Up next in August, we have episode 19. But if you're eager to find out the who and the what, you can always head over to the Patreon, where there are a bunch of perks, including early guest and album reveal and a supplementary video podcast. Patreon.com/Life Is Peachy Podcast. You guys are a huge part of what keeps this going, and I truly appreciate your support. So thank you so much. Until we hang out again next month, I would love to take this opportunity to say a very big thank you for spending your time and your energy with me today. I really do appreciate it. I know just how valuable our time and space is, so thank you. It means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoyed yourself along the way. And if you're wondering about creeping up slowly, yeah, it's about that. Big love, everyone.
See you at the party, Richter.
Bye-bye.
Stressed out and in doubt, I know exactly what you need. Got your life wrapped up in the palm of your hand. Try to feel what I feel, but you can't understand. No, you won't be satisfied till you see that something is gonna change. It's creeping up slowly. She's taking me over. It's turning me on.
know, I can eat a peach for hours.
This episode was written, edited, and produced by myself, recorded from the comfort of my own home.
DIY style.
With each guest calling in from wherever they happen to be around the world at that particular time. The Life Is Peachy theme song is an original tune for this podcast, written by Tim Richardson. All music by the artist featured in this episode is used with permission. Further details can be found in the description of the specific episode. All artwork is original and illustrated for the Life Is Peachy podcast by Chris Lisa Liefting.